All right, we've got this, but there's a technical problem that we should probably go over. Thanks so much for stopping by the shop today, guys. We're working on the Wedell Williams Model 44, and today I thought I would dig out the Saito radial and go over a couple of things. First and foremost, it's time that we talk about time, and to do that, I've got a degree wheel here. It's going to be a pretty technical discussion today I want to have with you guys, but I want to take you along the ride and show you what I'm up against and the things that I've learned. It's pretty interesting stuff. For those of you who are unfamiliar with radial engines and how to deal with these things, they can be pretty temperamental, but they don't have to be. The timing and such of the spark is all done by the ignition module, including all of the advance that's required. But sometimes having the timing not right in baseline makes things a little bit difficult for you. One of the things that has been reported to me is that the 73cc 5-cylinder from Saito does not easily start. And the reason that it doesn't easily start is because of the timing. We're going to go over that a little bit, but in order to explain things, I had to order a new part. So here we have the part. This is a piece from CH Ignitions, and this is a new prop hub. Now, what difference does a prop hub make? Doesn't a prop hub simply hold the propeller in place? Well, I mean, it does, but it does more than that. On this particular engine, there are a series of magnets on the side of it that go over top of a Hall effect sensor, which then sends a signal to the ignition module when to fire the spark plug. So let's go over a little bit of how this works for this engine, and then try to dig in a little bit deeper of why I needed this part. All right, so like I said, we're going to get a little bit technical. So I need to illustrate a couple of things first. So first of all, this is technically a 2-stroke engine, or if we're going to count the suck, squeeze, bang, blow cycles, that involves 2 full rotations of the crankshaft in order to accomplish that for 1 cylinder. Obviously, over the duration of both of those 2 turns, you'll have the 4 other pistons fire. So effectively, you have 360 degrees of rotation times 2, and that gives you 720 degrees. Well, 720 degrees mixed up above 5 pistons, so 720 divided by 5 is 144 degrees of rotation between each cylinder firing evenly. All right, so effectively you have cylinder 1, all right, and that is going to fire at 0 degrees. Okay, cylinder 2, that will fire at 144 degrees. Cylinder 3, that will fire at 288 degrees. Let's add 144 degrees again. And so now you've completed 1 full rotation. And so now cylinder 4 is firing at 72 degrees. 144 more degrees, cylinder 5 is firing at 216 degrees. And then 216 plus another 144 brings you back to 0 degrees. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Simple. Basic geometry stuff. Now, what we need to do is take a look at the even spacing in relation to these magnets. So I've got 2 different colors here. I'm going to use blue as our baseline here. We're told from CH Ignitions that we have timing set for these magnets at 30 degrees below top dead center. Okay, so top dead center, below top dead center. All right. So this means that you have top dead center, and we're going to go backwards 30 degrees of crankshaft rotation, and that is where these are set. And that accounts for the inertia to additionally compress the fuel before it ignites, right? So the way that this hub is attached, there is a grub screw with a pin that goes into this hole. So I'm going to use this as a reference point because I don't know which one of these magnets is which. But we can use this as a baseline and then try to determine the numbers from there. All right? So bear with me for a minute. Okay, so I had to take you off the tripod to get to my calculator on my phone. So arbitrarily, if we start here at 46, assume that is cylinder 1, and we go around to, actually, I mislabeled this one. This is 2. Okay, so add about 144 degrees, right? So we're down here, and then back up to here, 334, okay? And then back over here to number 4, and back over here to number 5, okay? So then if we go to 5 and then add 144 again, we're back over here. Okay, so these make sense. This one is an outlier, which must be an indicator of some sort of timing or relative spacing. Now, why can I safely assume that? Well, it is relatively safe to assume that is a timing issue because, number one, the math works out geometrically speaking. And then looking between firing cylinders 1 and 4, you've got roughly the same equivalent angle. It's about 37, 38 degrees. Degree here or there isn't going to make too terribly amount of difference. But knowing that you've got that specific mark approximately 37 degrees before top dead center, that's going to send a pretty strong signal to let the computer, the ignition box, let it know where it is. So if I were to be a guessing man, that's where we get our roughly 30 degrees before top dead center. So the only real way we can sort of try to wrap our heads around this more is to actually pull the hub off of the engine as it exists from Saito and do this same process, which is why I have a different colored pen. I should note that I did have to modify this cheap puller from Harbor Freight. I had to modify the ends here, but I also swapped out these to extend the length a little bit from the original ones supplied from the kit. It's a set of 3, so yeah, just a little bit of manipulation. All right, additional math timeout. Okay, so what do we have here? A whole bunch of colors and numbers and stuff. So I've gone through and done the math and done all of the calculations. So again, we previously did blue for the CH ignitions wheel. And then looking at the stock Saito prop hub or wheel, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if you note, we've got between 1 and 1, we've got roughly the same amount. It's roughly 24 degrees retarded. So this is editor Joshua. We're gonna pause, put the brakes down a little bit here for a second. So retard and advanced. Okay, they're timing things. I don't really explain that well, and I pointed out here in this first instance because I talk about it incorrectly. Incorrectly meaning I was assuming that advance was in the clockwise direction because clockwise, and retard would be in the anti or counterclockwise direction. This is wrong. Okay, because of the rotation of the engine, anti-clockwise, counterclockwise, that is actually the rotation of the engine. Something that I just wasn't thinking about at the time of filming this. I'll go into this a little bit deeper, why it matters later, so there'll be another interruption like this. Retarded from where this is, okay? And so, again, you've got pretty even spacing here, 35 degrees and 37 degrees. A degree off here and there is more or less due to my physical drawing. I tried to draw them as accurate as possible. I'm not going to argue a degree here or there, and I'll go over these numbers in a minute to show you what they mean. So these line up as well as the differences between 4, as well as 2 and 5 and 3. So these are just arbitrary numbers, okay? I'm not saying which one is number 1. I don't know exactly. I'm really just trying to get a relativistic look at this. So just as a brief check here, we've got the CH ignitions as well as the stock Saito. I wanted to check the spacing between each one of these degrees, 145, 143, 147, 140, 145. So little bit of, I think this one's off. I think this is a little too far ahead in terms of how I drew it, etc. So I'm not going to complain. And this last one, 145, this is from the 161 up to the 46. So again, doing the same thing with the Saito hub, 145, 142, 145, 143, 145, back up to the 22. So that lines up pretty well with our target of 144 degrees. Now, one of the things that CH Ignitions also talks about that this hub corrects is spacing between a couple of the cylinders. I don't see that error. Maybe that was on an earlier or initial version of this engine from Saito, but that does not seem to be an issue. So everything looks even, everything looks correct. It's just that we're seeing, well, if you figure 46 minus 22, so yeah, that's 24. 24 additional degrees of retard. So that means if you assume that the CH Ignitions hub is 30 degrees below top dead center, then this is 54 degrees below top dead center. I don't know why that is. All right, so I want to make it clear. So in fact, because I got the direction wrong, the airplane's engine, these Saito engines, the hub is actually in advance. The timing is advanced. So
With advanced, the advantage is that you are able to extract more horsepower, more power from the engine, which is good because you're able to effectively swing a larger prop at higher RPM, sort of how torque and RPM play together is to get more horsepower, right? So that's number one. Number two is it's probably a little bit safer for Saito to have a more advanced timing condition in order to help reduce knock. Knock is something that's going to be really bad for an engine like this, particularly for the master rod. So having that timing situated in that way sort of helps them with like the various different formulations of fuels across the globe, not just in the United States or in Europe or in Japan. There are a number of different formulations and how much ethanol content, etc. Obviously, for these kinds of high-end engines, you want to have the best fuel possible, but you can't necessarily always have access to that. So for example, I don't have direct local access to ethanol-free fuel unless I go to the airport where I can get 100 low lead, which doesn't have ethanol content. Are they going to just give it to some guy off the street? Probably not. But worth mentioning here, because there are specific reasons that Saito would choose this, and it's not necessarily to cheat you. By retarding the timing the way that I'm doing, I'm sacrificing a little bit of power in the name of easier startability, number one, but number two, a little bit better longevity, hopefully. That's the hope here. So sorry to slow you down. Sorry I got this wrong, but want to make sure that I gave a good technical explanation for this.
So this is absolutely worth the upgrade. So I'm going to go ahead and install this, this hub. And moving forward, this is what we're going to use, guys. We're going to use the CH Ignitions hub. All right, so we have this thing mounted. I went through and I did the thing to get this mounted. I've got a scrap board here that still had plenty of surface area for me to drill some fresh holes in. I've got some blind nuts on the back, some 1032 bolts mounting it up. And I need to hollow out and make a hole in this board so that there's more room behind the carburetor. Want to make sure that this thing can breathe. But aside from that, I've got all the other stuff to put on this. I've got to get the exhaust put on. That way we have good back pressure from the engines, right? We'll also got to get the ignition system put on. Got to get all of that mounted. Got to get it strapped out of the way. Got to get a power source, battery, right? In addition, I've got a tachometer, digital tachometer, so I can keep my hands free and monitor the RPM, okay? And then on top of that, I've got to get a fuel system. I've got to get a fuel. This is my glow fuel system, so I've got to replace all that. But I do have the throttle linkage working now, which is nice to have. But all that stuff's got it strapped on, and I'll get there. So one thing at a time, take your time when you have something like this. Probably not going to use this prop. This is a good dummy prop, but this is 18 inches and it's a little too small. I don't want to break in the engine with the Varia prop that I have. I want to break it in with a more traditional, conventional prop, so I might just get something from BuddyRC, like a Falcon prop, just something conventional, but somewhere in the order of 22 inches or so that's recommended for this engine. In addition, lots of hardware done to get all this set up. Some rod, some bolts, blind nuts, some servo things. I mean, just the hardware that you need is at dubro.com is what I'm trying to tell you. And make sure you head on over there and use code Josh10 at checkout and get yourself a little 10% discount. It adds up so that you can get little accessories like that to make things a little bit nicer in your life. So, yeah, we're progressing on this build slowly but steadily, okay? Hope you learned something today. And I hope that you've enjoyed this journey, and you could take a little bit of knowledge and power with you at the end of it. So thank you so much for watching, and keep working on your flying works of art.